Wes says that this character, I think he's talking about Oz, has almost as much baggage as the Joker as far as how familiar we are with him. What'd you think about that?
So if you're caught up on like the most recent Joker movies, things with him and mom weren't so well. Bit of a Freudian mishap, if you will. So I definitely see some similarities with Oz here because he's carrying a ton of psychological stuff. Maybe not as like overtly wild and off the cuff as the Joker, but he's definitely dealing with some demons, and the mom has a huge role in that.
They take public transit and then they end up they take like the city train all the way out to what's called the commuter rail, and they pull up to this other burner car that Oz has, and Vic is surprised that he has another car, and they drive out to, maybe this is like Staten Island, the equivalent of Staten Island or something. Would you say would you say that's what this is?
Yes,
I'm not a
that
New
checks out.
Yorker. So they pull up to this small little house and they visit Oz's mom. So already Vic is seeing some really personal aspects of Oz's life. And it's really odd and interesting that Oz is letting him in this early, right? Because he sees where Oz lives in the city, the place where he rests his head at, and now he's gonna fucking come into contact with Oz's mom, and now he knows the address of Oz's mom.
That's a lot to fork over, right?
Yeah, it's a lot to fork over. So he kind of chooses him as a successor right away. But they pull up, and Vic is looking at these family pictures. By all accounts, it seems like Oz grew up in a pretty normal family, right? Like, seems like it. But then we meet his mom, and she's a real piece of work. And her name is what, Francine? Is it Francis? No, Francis. Francis.
Francis.
Oz gives Francis the necklace that he was gifted by Alberto, and she's pumped about it, but he's really using the necklace as a bribe. He's like, look, we got to leave. We're taking a quick vacation. We can't be here. And the reason why is because Oz knows that Sophia is onto him, so he kind of just wants to go on the run. And Francis freaks out at not only that, but she also freaks out that Vic is in the house. Oz kind of calms her down and says, look, he's just going to take care of you. He's here to take care of you. Also, she's on meds, and they mentioned this weird thing with the bathtub. What was that all about? When she was saying, or Oz asked her, hey, did you take your meds or something? And then she says the bathtub's all full. Or did you know what that was all about?
To me, I took it as like a hallucination, or like she had transported herself back to when she had the two or three kids and they were like playing in the tub. So she didn't really have a concept
Oh,
of what time she was in.
thank fucking God that you're watching this shit too, because I straight up was going to miss that. But yeah, good call. So she has some dementia, or her mind's not
I
right.
think so.
But in this part, her mind is super right. Where when she calls Oz out for lying to her. She's like, I don't really care about anything else, but I did not raise my son to lie to me. That's the thing that hurts me the most. Why are we leaving? What happened last night? And Oz comes clean. He says he shot Alberto, and she goes, "Why'd you shoot him?" And he says, Alberto laughed at me. And she calls her son a fucking pussy boy for reacting to someone violently, for being laughed at and being apologetic about it. She tells him killing Alberto was fine as long as he acknowledges the real reason behind it, right? Like, she wants him to acknowledge the monster inside. And she tells him the city is meant to be yours. Go get the city. It's almost like she was just taken over by a fucking spirit, right? It's kind of wild.
Yeah, she starts out like this kind of psychologically scrambled older lady who looked kind of sweet. And then she turns into like the little league coach who's trying to make his kid a pitcher because he was never able to. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
it's like some strange projection and some strange like ambition flowing through here. This is where I got those weird mommy issues from the Joker here with Oz, because then it all becomes very clear that this is not a one-time deal. This is probably what's caused most of Oz's insecurity, aside from his basically like the wound on his face and then his foot. This is probably what also messed him up, right?
Yeah.
She's the toxic one. And then the it was instinctual line, like she is a killer, dude.
This gives a little bit, it's not the same, but it kind of gives a little bit of Olivia Soprano. A little
Okay,
bit.
yes.
She
Yeah.
wasn't rooting for Tony as much, but she also detested when Tony was weak, and she
Yes.
read her son like a book. It was kind of crazy. But yeah, and we still don't know what's good with Oz's dad, so we don't know that yet.